how do you describe the story of us to others?
I always say, so my sister Jeanne found us, her birth family, when I was in college. And when my dad called me in college, and the only time he ever called me in college was to tell me somebody was dead. So I figured somebody was dead. And he said, your sister found us. And what was funny about that is that he had never ever mentioned my sister ever in life.
Yeah.
Like you were an open secret that nobody ever talked about, but like me and then talked about you, but my dad never ever said anything. But obviously he knew we knew because he called me like your sister found us, and I was like, oh, now we announcing sisters,
right?
And then he was like, you'll never guess what high school she went to, and I was like,
that was his next thing.
Yeah, he was like, she went to Kappa, and I was like, oh, what's her name? And he was like, Jeanne Green or Jeanne Williams. Yeah. And I was like, shut up. I was like, I just saw Jeanne on the bus this summer. And then it all came back to me. And I remembered how people would say we look like sisters. And so, and I was like, yeah. And I went to high school with my sister. Yeah. What are your 3 favorite memories we share? And why do you cherish them?
3 favorite memories. One is the time that when we all went to the cabin. Well, and I guess we like the lake house.
Okay, the lake.
Auntie Derek and that was
3 summers in 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That we share.
Yeah, that's when you busted out the game.
Yes.
You busted out the and made the entire family play over an open fire.
Yes. 3 favorite. Oh, wow. Favorite. And I don't know if favorite is the word that I would put on it, but it absolutely is one of the moments that I will always cherish, and that is the transition of Grandma. And so that whole experience was wow. Like we really felt like she stayed to make some things to see us all come together. And I remember when we were playing that was the girlfriend's game. But I remember the morning.
Yeah.
And we were all there. The 3 of us, 4 of us. Me, you, Auntie. And literally for her last breath. And when she sat up. And so I got to experience that with you. And so it's just been a gift to have my birth family in my life, that I got to experience that with my aunt and my sister, both my aunts and my sister and my grandmother. Like, people aren't given that. Yeah. So that. So maybe that's number 1. I don't know. What was your first impression? Be completely honest.
I will.
What was your first impression of me, and how has that changed? It's like, so are we answering this like when we met in high school? Because what was your first impression of me, and how has that changed over time?
Like, when I got to know you as my sister, I think, what was my impression? I don't know. In some ways, I had to organize this, this strange thing that was happening. That was just but I know this person, but
she's my sister.
But she's my sister.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that there's a way in which I needed the sister part to evolve. I needed it to come into, it's almost like, in front of me was girl I went to high school with, and then sister was like off in the distance, and it needed to keep coming closer.
Yeah.
And then the form of it started to make sense.
Right. And I think what made it harder is that we didn't, like, you were in college,
right?
And then, right after college you started traveling. So there was never, so it was an in and out thing.
Yeah.
And it was always in different phases of our lives,
Yes.
right? And for me, life was always happening, but so it made it a little more, I think it made it more difficult for us versus people who live in the same space.
Absolutely.
And can constantly...
that clarity took longer to come into full vision, right? Where it was like, oh, we're sisters, and that means something, and that actually has a texture and a way that we relate. It took a lot longer for that to become clear inside of our relationship, but...
I felt and I feel like it's something that you wanted.
Yes.
Now, I did not feel that way then.
Yeah.
Because I feel that, and as an adoptee, you don't, well, for me, I don't want to feel like, hi, I found you and I'm your obligation and you're obligated to love me and be in my life now. And I didn't want that. I wanted there to be a genuine desire for a relationship or not.
Right. And I think I needed to, again, because I had so much distancing from my family in general and distancing from practices. I think there was a way and like there was a period of time there was resentment to my dad. Like you just made all these humans that now I got to have a relationship with. Right? And, and then what I had to deal with all of the emotional stuff that made that occur to me that way, right? That was just like, oh, right, this is the part of me that's afraid of intimacy and afraid of connection, and part of me that's like, well, let me just run before I'm abandoned, right? That story. And so...
And I wasn't the personality to let you do that.
Yeah,
either.
No, you were like, and I'm here,
unlike other people,
and I'm here, and I'm here, and I'm here, and I'm going to be really bossy about the fact that I'm here, and you're acting like you don't know I'm here. And I needed that actually. There was and I've said this to you before, and I know that it's sometimes the role that you get tired of inside of the family, but there is the necessity and the gift of your persistence, particularly for us. And I mean us as a whole family unit of people who really are, love avoidant.
Yeah.
And so there's a way in which your unwillingness, your inability. I'm even gonna call it.
I was going to say
an inability. It's literally you can't, right? Because I know you wish you could.
I want to
be
unwilling.
Yeah,
but it's
But because you can't, it's actually the absolute thing that I know I needed, and I also know that it's the thing the family needs too.
Present tense. Needs.
Yeah. What are you hesitant to ask me, and why?
What am I hesitant to ask you, and why?
Me and why?
Girl, nothing. What am I hesitant to ask you, and why? Well, there's nothing that I'm hesitant to ask you. So I guess what I'll try to think of something hesitant to ask you. Would you choose me? Like, would I... I'm like such a crybaby. Like, would I, if you had to go to the sister store...
and pick out a sister.
I mean, I know I have other sisters in my the other side of my birth family. But if you went to the sister store, and don't just say, because like honestly, like, would you choose me?
Well, so you also have to ask why you're hesitant to ask that question.
So the slight fear of rejection, right? Like you already know, like I have this whole, that's something I need to work on, like because of, my childhood and, even adulthood, the fear of rejection, because it still shows up. And I do still feel I don't know if I want to call it rejected. But sometimes I feel like, okay, well, she's here. I know she found us. And yep, that's Jeanne over there. But I could take her or leave her. No, I would, so I guess my question is, would you take me or leave me?
It's a sweet and silly question. Of course I would choose you. I choose you every day.
Would you? No.
But then, but no, I want to presence that for you, right? Like, because I think it's important. Like, what I said was, I was like, damn, daddy, you made all these goddamn kids I don't want a relationship with, right? Or they feel like a responsibility to love, right? And that is not
a responsibility to love,
right? Like, they feel like a responsibility to love as opposed to a choice to love.
Yeah.
And what has transpired for me is that you're not a responsibility to love. You're a choice to love. I choose to love you.
Thank you for that.
I choose to love you. And I love getting the choice to love you. And I love that when I get the choice to love you, I say yes.
Thank you. Because because I feel like in relationships, my present relationships, and even in the beginning of our relationships, that is like what it was.
Yeah.
And so I decided, like, not even I decided, but I couldn't help but continually try to, because I wanted that, right? Yeah. The relationship. But I didn't want it to be
like an obligation.
Yeah. I would have been, that's when that's part of the talk you have with yourself when you look for your birth family. You say, well, whatever's on the table, I'll work with that, or I won't. Like, but all I want to do is just find them. Yeah. Right? So thank you.
Yeah. It's thank you for being, like, I think that it, in the face of the particular kind of, like I said, avoidant nature that is, that I have, because I also am from the same people that we from. Yeah, like I wouldn't have blamed you if you decided, like, I'm good off these people, like, it's, if it isn't arms wide open, then fine, like, and there's a way, again, because you're just wired that way, that there's a persistence in your steadiness. Like, you're just like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be me. Even when I wish I wasn't, even when I was tired of this particular this particular element of my character. But because of that, because there's a way in which you just stood there, it gave me the space to keep returning. Right? And it wasn't like one day I returned and you weren't there anymore.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is the most heartbreaking thing about folks who have avoidant tendencies is, like, it's not that you don't deeply want this love, it's that you're afraid of it. Right.
Can I show up a mess today?
Exactly.
Can I show up a mess today and they'll still love me?
Right. And so instead you just reject it. And what often happens is, by the time you get through that, you go back and the person's gone. And you've missed the opportunity to be in that. And so it just feels like a deep, deep gift that you just stayed there so that I could go and get my shit together and go to therapy and do all the things that I needed to do to actually be able to show up to the love. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love you for that. What do you feel connects us?
What connects us? Love. Love. Because the way everything else happens and all the other experiences that are out here, and like just when we're this, we choose to just love. You choose to just love. You choose to just, you had, your fear, even though you feared intimacy, sisterly intimacy, it was your love that moved you, even though I might have felt rejected or felt like I'm not sure if she wants this. It was my love for you. Yeah. Why do you love me?
Because it's kind of impossible not to. Because you really are a spectacular human being.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there's a way in which you love in a way that calls forth love in people. And so, you have called forth a love in me, and I'm so grateful that I get to direct it toward you.
Thank you for seeing me.
Joyfully.
I love you.
If you enjoyed that conversation at the end and you're wondering how it works, it comes down to the space and the questions that are offered. And we've taken that learning and distilled it down into a book. It's called 12 Questions for Love, a guide to intimate conversations and deeper relationships. You can order your book now, available anywhere you get your books, available in ebook, audiobook, and hardcover. And most importantly, thank you for watching.